In this video, we will talk about how to do question 1 in homework 12.1. The directions are to let f of x be 4 to the x and g of x be 1/3 to the x, and we're asked to evaluate the following. And we're going to do some, but not all of these on a separate piece of paper. Remember, with function notation, finding g of 0 means on the g rule, so here's my rule, 1/3 all to the x power, evaluate that when x is 0. So that means go put a 0 in for the x, and you have to say, what is 1/3 to the 0 power? And you might remember from our laws of exponents section that a number raised to the 0 power is in fact 1. Right? So just so we can read each one of these, and again we'll do a few on a separate piece of paper, finding f of 0 is notation for go find y when x is 0 using the f rule, right? So we're putting in a 0 for that x, and we're asked what is 4 to the 0. G of -4 means on the g rule, put a -4 up in that x, up in that exponent, and compute that number. Compute that y value, that function value. That's the number that they're looking for. Finding g of -1 means put a -1 in for the x on the g rule and simplify. Finding f of -3 means putting in a -3 for the x on the f rule. So what is 4 to the -3 power? That's what they're asking us to find. Reading it is probably over half the battle. Finding f of -1 means go put a -1 in for the x on the f rule and simplifying. What is 4 to the -1 power? Now 7 and 8 are a little bit different. They ask you to find one function value, find f of 2, find another function value, find g of -2, and then add those two function values together. So in other words, you're putting a 2 in for the x on the f rule first. Go find what 4 to the power of 2 is. You're then putting a -2 in for the x on the g rule. You're going to find out what 1/3 to the -2 power is, and then you add those two answers together. 8 is similar to 7. You're going to find f of 2 first. You're going to find g of -2 next, just like you did on 7. But then, instead of adding the two answers together, you will subtract them. Okay, so let's do a couple of these on a separate piece of paper. All right, so question 1 says let f of x be 4 to the x, let g of x be 1/3 to the x, and they ask us to evaluate a variety of function values. We're going to do a few of them. The first one is g of 0, right? And this is notation for go find the output, or if you prefer y instead of output, when the input is whatever number they have here. When the input is, in this case, 0, and if you prefer, maybe I'll just rewrite it again. And that says put, right? i.e., go find y when x equals 0. And here's my rule, where it's the g rule, where y is equal to 1/3 all to the x, because it's telling me to use the g rule. This might seem like we haven't done function notation in a while, and it might seem like this is a little cumbersome. Why wouldn't they just go ahead and ask us this in English? And the reason is really for future math classes. And when you get good at this notation, I promise you, you will like it. Right? So here's my function. G of x is 1/3 to the x. G is a rule. It takes in any number x, and what does it do? It does 1/3 to that power. So G of 0 is 1/3 all to the 0, which in fact is equal to 1. There's our answer, 1. We found the output. We found the y when x was 0 on this rule, the G rule. Okay, let's do another one. Actually, before I do, I think I'll just write answer. I think that's helpful. G of 0 is 1. When x is 0, y is 1 on the G rule, on the G function. Let's go ahead and do 3. We're asked to find G of -4. All right, I'm going to rewrite my G rule. It's 1/3 to the x. It's 1/3 to the input. And I'm inputting a -4. Maybe we just write this, question mark. 1/3 to the -1/4 power. Let's go ahead and simplify this. That negative exponent is notation for reciprocal, right? 1/3 to the -4 power isn't notation for 1/3 times itself -4 times. That doesn't mean anything. It's notation for the reciprocal of 1/3. That thing times itself 4 times. Oh, the reciprocal of 1/3 is 3, and 3 times itself 4 times. Here we have a 3 times 3, which is a 9. A 3 times 3 here is a 9. 9 times 9 is 81. So our answer here is 81. Answer. G of -4 is 81. Okay, I want to do one more. All right, we're going to do the last one here. We're going to do 9. We're going to find f of 2 first. We're going to find G of -2 next, and then we're going to subtract them. And if you want, you could do this with some scratch. Maybe we'll do that. So some scratch. I'm going to go after the f of 2 here first. My rule for f is whatever I put in, I get out 4 to that number, 4 to the input. I'm asked to find f of 2. So that's 4 to the input, 4 to the 2. F of 2 is 4 squared, which is 4 times 4, which is 16. Okay. F of 2 is 16. All right. Let's also go ahead and find G of -2. That's my rule for G. Whatever number I put in, I get out 1/3 to that number, 1/3 to the input. I'm looking for G of -2. G of -2 will be 1/3 to the -2 power. Remember, this is similar to the one that we just did. That minus sign right there is actually notation for reciprocal of a third, which is 3. That's the number that's being squared. G of minus 2 is 3 times 3, which is 9. All right, so now putting these together, you do not have to do scratch. You can jump straight in, but I think the scratch is helpful for some of us. So it's good to do it. Give yourself plenty of space. So f of 2 we found out to be 16. Minus g of minus 2 we found out to be 9. And here we have it, 16 minus 9, which is 7. Here is our answer. F of 2 minus g of minus 2 is equal to 7. Bloop. And we are done. There are more than just these 3 problems in question 1, but I'm going to stop right here. We're going to go ahead and put them in and see that we do get the right answers. All right, so we did 1. We found g of 0 to be 1. We did number 3. We found g of negative 4 to be 81. And we also did, oh, and I think I labeled it 9, but not 8. But we did the last one here. Yeah, I'm sorry, I labeled it 9, but we did 8 here. And our answer was 7. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and submit. Obviously, I'm not going to get the greatest grade because I'm leaving a lot blank, but I just want to practice this with you. Yes, I'm leaving some stuff blank. And you can see that the problems we did great on. Right? Thank you for watching this video.